All right. So our next speaker is going to be Aisha Bello. She's a co-host of the Django Girl podcast and winner of the 2016 Malcolm Trednick Award. And she's going to be talking about Python for Progress. So thank you very much. Welcome, Aisha.
Hello, everyone. Okay, thank you. Because we just had lunch, I'm going to tell everyone to stand up. Yeah? Okay, all stand, all rise. Well, we're not in a courtroom. All rise? Yes, okay. All right, so we're going to do just very simple. We're just going to go once to the left and once to the right. One more time, one to the left, one to the right. Yeah, just stretch it out. Thank you. Round of applause for yourself. You may see. All right. I'm just going to get my notes here. Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Aisha. Thank you for coming to this talk. This is Python for Progress, but building impactful communities in Africa. This picture is of me in a Django Girls event while I was in university. No idea about Python. EuroPython and Django Girls Bilbao gave me my start. And I wouldn't be where I am today without the amazing organizers who organize EuroPython and Django Girls as a community. So I work as a senior solutions architect for AWS based out of Toronto. I am on the board of directors for Django Girls. You know, we already know the podcast. I think my most favorite part is, the work I do with the community. I founded the Python Nigeria community way back in 2016, and I'm going to talk a lot more about that later. I love conferences. I'm so happy to be here. I got myself some henna tattoos, being in Dubai, so thank you so much. So what we will talk about today is why we need the why behind Python communities, not just in Africa, but I guess some of the learnings are also applicable in the Middle East, because the Middle East Python community is one we also want to help develop and help build. We will talk about stories from Python communities in Africa. We're going to also talk about some of the challenges we face that could or could not be peculiar, that maybe many people could relate to. And we're going to give some tips on how to start your own community. Hopefully, someone in here is looking to start a community, and it's if we can do it, if I can do it, then anybody can do it. So we're going to start with the why. Safe space. So Python gives us a safe space for everybody to feel included. And I say everybody included because if you look at how the Python community started off with in the States, but it's even not everybody's going to be able to travel to PyCon US or EuroPython. We need our own safe spaces locally to make sure everybody feels included. We're very welcoming to beginners and those who are new in technology. I got my start in the Python community, and that's literally why we need people. We need the message of Python to pretty much be a globally accepted language. Where in Africa we have Pythons, and so when anybody say, "Oh, Python," you're the first thought to an African is that's a terrible snake. I don't want to go anywhere near Python. So we actually had to do a re-education and awareness to tell people Python is a programming language that anybody can learn. I wish I learned Python when I was way back in university as opposed to C# because it does make life easier. It makes life easy for people. Sorry, it makes it easy for people to start off in their programming journey. Believe it or not, Africa is exporting human capital. We have tons of people who are hungry for knowledge, hungry to learn, hungry to connect to the global community, hungry to create impact. And Python really does give us that foundation to learn, to build, to create, and to even grow our own communities and economy. When I think about the economic impact, if I think about how we started way back in Nigerian community, and Python wasn't popular. So you wouldn't find jobs for Python developers just because the only developer jobs are probably Java or C, right? And then if you think about, as we have more Python communities, you have, you know, people creating companies, creating awareness, that Python becomes even a more popular language that companies, organizations, and even schools want to leverage, in essence, creating like the ripple effect of an economic impact. Like I said, we need to increase the popularity of Python, not as a snake, but as a language that is easy, easy to learn and adopt. I want to touch on some characteristics of a successful community, and then I will move on to talk about all the Python communities in Africa, but specifically how they've been impacting the communities. It's welcoming of everyone. Everyone, we are bound, our events, our conferences, our meetups are bound by the code of conduct for like Python Software Foundation, where we're supposed to treat every single person, regardless of race, creed, gender, with respect, regardless of wherever you are in the continent, right? So we are welcoming of everybody. Impact that is community, but also individual. This is very important in the sense that you can have community impact, right? But if every single individual is not advancing in their career goals or advancing in their life, right? What use is it? So the successful community has community impact, but every single individual also gets grows as a result of the community. Local and global opportunities for members. So being a member of Python community means that you have access to a global ecosystem. Like I'm from Nigeria. We've had people from different countries in Africa just be in Dubai this week, which is amazing. Having access to us, it's actually a two-way street. People always feel like, oh, I want to go to Africa and I want to teach Python and I want to help them and I want to learn. It's actually a two-way street where you teach us and we teach you as well, right? Which is the case for like many people who come to our conferences. Growth, like I said, the growth and popularity in Python, like you've seen some of the examples I have later, is as a result of the community that we've built way back when. So I'm going to talk now on like the success stories. And I'm choosing these communities. There are way more communities in Africa, but I'm choosing specifically this community in Nigeria because I'm biased, one. Namibia and Ghana to show different ways communities can impact not just individuals, but also other communities within the region. So I will start with Python Nigeria community. I had my notes here. Python Nigeria was started out as a Django Girls event in Lagos. So after I had attended EuroPython, it was one of those things that I was like, we have to have something like this in Nigeria. And one of the things we decided to do was host a Django Girls event because that's all I knew. But you can't really have an event if you don't have mentors and coaches who know Python, right? So the first thing is like, where is all the people who do Python in Nigeria? Because there was no organized community. And then you reach out to some forums and some people respond. And then you realize that there's actually Python users I realized there's Python users in Nigeria. And then it's like, okay, let's come together and form a community. And since 2016, we've hosted like 3 PyCons in Nigeria, supported the Python Africa conference that happened way back in 2019. And the list keeps going on. So one of the things that we really do is the Pi Ladies events, the Django Girls events, the conferences, the Python User Nigeria group meetups are one of the ways that we reach out to the community. Education. So, like I said, I went to a private university in Nigeria, and there was no mention of Python as a language. You will find that even in many public institutions, they still teach COBOL, Fortran, C if they're really like next levels, like, wow, you're doing C. Like, so with the community, we were able to do lots of events like the Python meetups. We were able to go into schools where we're not just in universities, but we're also in like high schools, also teach Python in like elementary school where like using Scratch, like what Nicholas just showed. So that's one of the ways that Python has really helped, and also in the educational sector. You'll be surprised that two of our Python community members are founders of tech startups. One is an edu tech startup, Tuteria, and the other one is a fintech startup. Now, it's not just about startups, it's about the economic impact of having those companies that are built with Python. It means that there are now more Python, there are local roles and job opportunities for people who learn Python. And think about what that happens from an economic impact individually. It means you bring somebody out of poverty because they learn a language and they're able to support themselves, their families, and just spread the word and teach other people. And so yeah, so politics. So one of our board members actually sits on the house, on the House of Reps for the Ekiti constituency, which is like a state in Nigeria. And one of the things that is a mandate is to enable small business owners leverage technology in their businesses. And that is like, and that if you think about the community impact, that is, we can do all the things that we need to do and make all the changes that we need to make. But if the system itself is chaotic and we're not intentional about, having a voice and a representation, not just in education, not just in companies and in the commercial sector, but also in politics where policies can be made to encourage Python education, right? We're just going to be leaving things on the table. Does this work? Oh, sorry. Networking. So when we founded PyCon Nigeria in 2016, and we had a PyCon event in 2017, we had other communities like the Python Ghana, Python Benin Republic actually attend and participate and go back and create their own communities to be impactful locally. So it's like, if a community starts in Dubai, it impacts UAE, it probably impacts Saudi, and literally this is how you spread the word and you spread the impact. And so creating those opportunities for new communities to form where they don't exist in the first place is one of the benefits, or one of the things that having a Python community has helped with in Nigeria. And then I'm going to talk about partnerships. So we never do anything in isolation. So in 2016, we partnered with like a company called Sci-Fi Smart Girls. And what we did was we went to Ajegunle. So Ajegunle is a city in Lagos. I'm not going to show pictures, but it's a very, what's the word? It's a very underprivileged society in Lagos, right? And so when you go to teach Python in communities like that, you're not going to just go and even start from scratch. You first even need to spend the first 2 or 3 weeks to teach them how to use a computer, how to click, what to do. And these are real problems, right? And so creating a curriculum that would take these young people from, I'm going to even teach you how to open an application, to writing like beginner code and, doing things with the computer, and even giving them those computers afterwards is what I call impact. We also partner with like the Data Science Nigeria Foundation as well, who also do the data science courses for free, enabling like more data scientists in the country, and then we help with that. We've partnered with organizations like the Aspilos Foundation to organize a Jungle Girl event for girls in refugee camps who were affected by like the Boko Haram insurgency. So these are the kind of things that we do, where we teach them and we give them the computers as well. We get donations and fundings, give them the computers to actually go back and to be able to continue on that learning journey. Because if you come from like a country where the economy situation is really bad, it's not just, you're not just going to teach and walk out the door. There has to be consistency, there has to be follow-ups. They have to have the tools, because if I cannot afford to eat, I'm not going to be thinking about buying a computer, right? So that's one of the other things. And yes, we have Pi Ladies events, Jungle Girls events as well, that have penetrated different schools. This is how we take the education to the next level. So you know you're doing a good job when your local news start to take notice, right? So we had like these are all board members, past board members, present board members of the Python Nigeria community, and we got featured in like the local newspapers, like in Nigeria, and and also we had another one from Punch. It's important to note that every community is peculiar, right? So in Nigeria, we have our own challenges that is different from challenges you find in like Namibia or challenges you find in like other countries. So for example, when I organize events, my problem is about, oh, power is going to go out, right? Do I have a backup generator? And do I have another backup generator to that backup generator when power fails? So walking around your peculiar challenges for the community and the region where you are is also super important. Python Namibia is a community that deserves an amazing mention. And it's impactful. So if you think about conferences, events, education, they have it all. But what is super important about Python Namibia is they started in 2015. I think that was 2015, 2014, 2015. And they were like one of the first Python communities in Africa. The first Python community that I know of was Python South Africa, the community in South Africa. And they started way back in 2012. But if you look at the time between South Africa and Namibia and the other communities, you see that the real change impact did not really start until Python Namibia became very intentional about including all the other countries in Africa to go on and expand, right? So, Jessica spoke yesterday, one of the founders of the community. And one of the things I wanted to add here is that, so Python Namibia started in 2015. And when they organized their PyCon Namibia, they invited people from all over Africa. And as a result of that, we went on and started the Python Nigeria, and even the Zimbabwe community took off as well that next year. And once that happened, the following year, the Ghana community came up, Python Benin came up, Python Cameroon, all these other communities came up. And then in 2018, we've gone from Southern Africa, Western Africa, and Eastern Africa to even Northern Africa as well, just to keep improving, increasing the community. And this is one of the major impacts that I feel like Python Namibia was one of the pioneer communities in the continent that really, really brought about change, really, really brought about progress, and really brought about like scale, pretty much. It's also important to add that these are not all the Python communities, but like these are just the ones that I put together, but there's way more. The other community I want to talk about is the Python Ghanaian community. They're very interesting because while some of communities have struggled since the pandemic to get back up and get back running, the Python Ghanaian community have stayed very consistent with just making sure they're, for example, organizing consistent meetups to ensure that there are people are stayed and plugged into the community, offering things like not just mentorships, but they also think about the same effect of like Python in education, Python in university, improving and increasing the awareness of Python in the local community in Ghana. There's such an organized community that have like all the user groups, PyData, PyLadies, Django Girls, all running centrally under the Python Ghanaian community user group. And also there are like people within that community that started out like learning Python, like for example, Abigail started learning Python at a Django Girls event and has gone on to be a developer, have gone on to do other things, speak at multiple conferences, started the PyLadies Ghana movement, and like it just goes on and on. So when you see a healthy community, you don't just see progress in the community and awareness. You see the individuals are actually growing as well. Things like mentorship, Django Girls PyLadies, like I discussed as well. So the challenges that we face, like let's just be honest, there is not enough funds for our events. There's not enough support for our events. We just don't have like the number of companies who use Python to support and fund our events. So that's one of the challenges we face. Python is still not a super popular language. People will still think Python is a snake, which is something that we're continuing to improve. Um, Accessibility is the fact that um, it is cheaper for me as a Nigerian to travel to the UK to and fro than it is for me as a Nigerian to travel to Namibia to and fro. We're just the infrastructure is not just there for us to stay connected to like do the trips back and forth. It's just more expensive. So having more local communities in country, in region ensures that everybody is included because not everybody's going to be able to afford to fly out to all the other global communities. So those accessibility um, challenges exist. We also have economic instability. These are normal. You know, I could talk. All, I would say all, of them, but we all know what's going on in the region between the wars and everything going on. That doesn't help the community as well, especially for like events. So one of the I wanted to like leave some nuggets for like how to start or revive in our case, revive a community. You always want to start small, right? Like we started with a Jungle Girls event. We started very small. We had like 20 people or like 10 coaches, and we started small, and then we got to know each other, and then it just grew on and on. And I think on our meetup group we have like over 5,000 people now, right? You start small and it kicks off pretty much. You want to network locally, but you want to connect with the global community. So when we had our Python conferences, we had people like Marlene from Zimbabwe. We had other speakers from Africa and also other speakers from other countries, in the world, just coming to speak and just to connect, which helped with the exposure, right? You always want to find like your why. Why are you doing what you're doing? What is the purpose? What is the goal? Set like a goal, very small goal for when you want to start. You want to have a team that believes in what you want to do. When I say a team, there was a time that I burned out because it's very easy to burn out when you're doing community work. It's like this like everybody volunteers, but maybe only 2 or 3 people actually do the work, right? So you want to find a team that will actually do the work and not just talk about doing the work, which is a huge challenge. I guess it's not just in Africa, it's probably everywhere. But like, it's a huge challenge, and then you get people burn out and people leave the community because that's what just happens. As much as possible, you want to bring people together in person, preferably virtual if you can't, but like you always want to bring people together because even coming to PyCon MEA and meeting the other communities and just having a 30 minutes conversation, we've achieved way more in that 30 minutes than we have in like the last 3 or 4 years just being virtual and not knowing what anyone is doing, right? So this is very, very important. You want to seek solutions to problems in unfamiliar places. So I'll give an example. When we organize events and we don't have power and we don't even have the funding to have a backup generator, what we do is we go ask the school for help. Like, can you borrow us your generator? We go ask somebody else, can you borrow us your audio connector system? We ask the local food vendor, can you please contribute? And then you can almost use us as like a marketing place. Just give us free food. So you find like, depending on where your community is, you find like different ways to solve your problem, especially when you don't have the means to. Always, the Python Software Foundation and Java Software Foundation have always been big supporters of our communities in many ways, in a lot of ways, shape and form, even when we started and how we started, which we're very grateful for. But yeah, if you're in doubt and no company believes in you, just make sure you're reaching out to the grants team, getting your application, or even just reaching out to find people in the community that could help. How can you support? We need you to come help. We need your help. You could mentor. There's so much knowledge in here. Like mentor or coach at events, or just come and present something, right? And teach the community anything that you learn. Attend a Python event in Africa. I went to PyCon Canada in 2019, and one thing I said was, wouldn't it be nice for you to go to a conference where nobody looks like you? Like everybody looks different, right? How amazing would that be where you are the minority in the room, right? So yes, you can attend. We need help, if you want to donate to specific communities or specific conferences, or you just want to give your time and you speak, right? Anthony Shaw from the Australian Python community wrote a letter. It's a super, it just gives the broad view of what the Python community in Africa entails. I highly recommend to read. In conclusion, my last thought really is the strength of the broom lies not in the power of a single front, but the resilience of its united front. So if I take one strand and I break, it breaks. You literally break. But if I take the entire broom and I try to break it, it's nearly impossible. So avoid things like burnout. So avoid only few people doing the work. We need everybody to do something. When everybody does something, it's more sustainable than when a few people are the one doing the actual work. And finally, JungleCon Africa, I wouldn't talk about this without telling you the events that are coming up, right? JungleCon Africa is happening next month. If you want to support them, that's the link. Also on Twitter. We have Python conferences in Africa happening. Namibia is happening around March. The exact dates will soon be announced. Nigeria, we're planning one for Q2, and I just heard that the PyCon Africa is happening in Q3 somewhere else in the continent. So try and attend a Python conference in Africa. It is amazing, it is fun, it is super intimate. And thank you. I will take questions. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you, Aisha. Very inspiring.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Hello.
Hi.
I'm Rahil from Pakistan and I work for a company in Singapore. So I have been into communities by Google, AWS and all. So the most challenging thing that I face that you also discussed is burnout and imposter syndrome, because I am a software engineer and I have a full-time job, and managing communities with it, it's not really easy, and building a team in everything. So most of the time I face a lot of burnout issues and imposter syndrome. So how do you actually tackle it? And yeah, what's the solution for it?
I find my tribe. Believe it or not, the Python community, we're not a big community by any means, by like North America or South America standards. But like I can tell you that I know all the leaders in Ghana, in Zimbabwe, in Namibia. Like I know them on a personal level. Like if I just need to rant, to vent, to ask for help, ask for advice, I could easily reach them. So even when it's hard to build your team, sometimes those other regions or countries have community members that are doing something that's working for them, and there's probably something that you can learn. I will learn something today from Manny, from the Python Ghana community. So that's there because they know your pain, they know what you're going through. So it's easier for them to like, inspire you to like maybe not burn out or like do more or do something different, right? When something doesn't work. I hope that helps. Yeah. What, 40 more seconds? I
No,
think it's okay.
unfortunately, we don't have more
All
time
right.
for questions. So thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.